Okay,
Naomi, you
thank
must be
you
on.
so much, Chris. I appreciate the introduction and nice to see so many of you on the call. For those of you who are new, our Career Spotlight is a weekly program that interviews guests of honor, such as Susan Chapman-Hughes, who are distinguished. We try to rotate different industries and backgrounds and have a variety of career topics each week. And it's open to everyone, the whole community, students, staff, alumni. And Monique Pryor will be moderating this. She is our chief of staff and a lawyer and a former contestant on The Amazing Race. And her bio is just as impressive, I'm sure, as Susan Chapman's. But we only have limited time, so I can't read the full bio, but we appreciate, Monique, you serving on this call and interviewing Susan. And afterwards, we'll take questions through Chris via chat. Thank you again.
Thank you, Naomi, so much for that introduction. We could have left off the Amazing Race part, but that's okay. Don't go Google it. It's okay. It's such a pleasure to be here. President Miguel and my fellow colleagues know how excited and energized I get when I get a chance to speak to students or with students. And so today is no exception, but I'm honored that I was asked to host this career spotlight, in particular with Chris's wife, Susan Chapman-Hughes, who is a dynamic woman in her own right. But before we get to her, I'd like to acknowledge our President Miguel Martinez-Saenz for being here with us, and he's going to bring us some words of wisdom as usual.
Well, sir, first I want to say, I'm gonna get in and out quick because I'm not the main event, but I want to first say thank you to Susan for taking the time out to talk to the St. Francis College community. I think, this is not the first time that you do it. So I appreciate you giving back. And as Monique likes to say, pouring into us is important. I want to acknowledge that we are in a critical time in our nation's history. And we have to be willing to put the conversation on the table. And I know we're talking about Career Spotlight today, but I think, as I told young people the other day, we've got these expressions, right? People say sometimes, and they say the early bird gets the worm, but what I want to remind you of, as I reminded the students yesterday, the second mouse gets the cheese. And what that means is that we've got to recognize that there are people that have put themselves in harm's way. There are people that have done a whole lot so that we can actually have this conversation. There are folks that have taken bullets, literally and figuratively, for us so that we can have the privilege to be able to talk about things that matter. So I think that's critically important, that we recognize that speaking about things that matter need to continue to happen at the college. And I want to just say, as I get out of your way, that what we're bringing you in terms of bringing awareness is also somebody who's a trailblazer, right? Susan Chapman-Hughes is the first mouse. She's had to be the one to break some ceilings, break some doors, break some walls, push at things. And young people, I think it's really important that you pay attention to that, because there are folks that came before you that are responsible for creating conditions that are going to enable you to flourish, right? It's incredibly important. Jay-Z tells us, if you remember from the piece, My President is Black, right? Martin walked so Barack could run. Barack ran so the children could fly. And I think that's a way of thinking about what it is that we're doing together today. So Susan, I appreciate your presence and I look forward to your comments. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, President Miguel. So I'm so excited today to have Susan with us. Our Career Services is doing an amazing job reaching out to our students during this challenging times that we're in. And I had the opportunity to meet Susan back in the fall for the first time. We've all been missing each other. And I came back to the campus so excited. I told Chris and President Miguel that she is just a force to be reckoned with. And I wanted to get her in front of more of our students. I know she has spoken to our Women's Leadership Network, where we have some students at a nice, fireside chat breakfast, but her impact on women and leaders actually in Fortune 100 companies is just amazing. And at the end of the day, she's so down to earth, right? She's so cool like that. So we were vibing, and she was actually pouring into me. So young people, it's never too late to learn. I'm always growing. And for our President Miguel, he showed me firsthand how we can also learn from people who are younger than us as well, in their 20s. And so I'm always open to learning as well. And Susan, just a side note, I do see some of my Delta Sigma Theta sisters on the call. I'm an Alpha Kappa Alpha woman, but I asked some of my friends to join us today. So you have your crew here, your sisters of Delta Sigma Theta. So without further ado, let me just say Susan Chapman-Hughes is the Executive Vice President and General Manager of Global Digital Capabilities, Transformation, and Operations, Global Commercial Services at American Express Company. She leads a global team responsible for managing, optimizing, and transforming the customer experience for commercial clients. In 2013, she was named to the GREO 100 list by Grill.com and NBC Universal as one of the most 100, listen to this students, 100 most creative people in business by Fast Company. Ms. Chapman-Hughes holds a Master's of Business Administration in Real Estate and Urban Land Economics from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. She also holds a Master of Regional Planning from the University of Massachusetts, Amherst, and a Bachelor of Science in Engineering from Vanderbilt University. And more recently, she is now a C-suite executive. She was just appointed to the J.M. Smucker's C-suite as a board member. So congratulations to you on that, Susan. That means that your daughter will never run out of jelly. That's what I'm thinking that means.
That's true. Lots of peanut butter and pet snacks that we will never use, but okay.
Yes, so that's a big feat in of itself. So I'm going to start from present and then jump to the beginning of your career, but tell us that long title that I just shared with our audience. What does that mean?
What do I do? You know,
What
it's so
do
funny.
you
When my mother was alive, people would ask her what I did for a living, and she'd be like, I don't know, but I know my child works for American Express, so or Citigroup at the time. So in my role every day, my team leads the digital data and operations for the commercial business at American Express. So we are, over 1,500 people. We literally sit in every part of the globe that American Express operates in. Our business is a commercial business, so we service all of our customers, from small business customers all the way up to our enterprise customers with commercial service needs. So whether they are financing solutions for small business, card, T&E solutions for our large and global customers, B2B solutions.
Can you just, I'm definitely, when I started at St. Francis, President Miguel would always say these acronyms, and I know what they mean. I didn't know what they meant when he said it, but I know what it means when you say it. So can you just explain to our students what T&E means and what B2B means as well, and what does it mean?
Yeah, so essentially, two ways to think about it. T&E is travel and entertainment. So when you take your accounting class and you look at the expense lines, you'll see T&E on that line that many companies have. And so we enable cards, so corporate cards. You get a card if you come work for many companies. They give you a corporate credit card, charge card, and so you can use that card for your entertainment and travel expenses when you travel and work on behalf of the business. B2B essentially means business to business. So, for our customers that do business with other business, we have a series of solutions that support those companies in the work that they do. And so they could be in the form of something as basic as a purchasing card. So, for example, if you're a manager in an office and you have to secure office supplies or pencils, you name it, food for the office. Many times you will use a purchasing card to do that, all the way up to more complicated financing solutions, which are essentially opportunities to create, I don't want to call it off-balance sheet financing, but it does, because it doesn't show up on the balance sheet, but the ability to finance large purchases or drive value out of the supplier and the buyer relationship. And so we service the whole gamut. Some things that might be very relevant or that might make sense to you today. So you saw the government came out with the PPP program. Don't ask me what that exactly stands for, but essentially it was a way to provide financing and support for businesses, particularly targeted at small businesses, to make it through the recession and the challenges economically we are having in our country right now. And so we were one of the conduit organizations that companies were able to apply for the PPP funds and engage and get them through American Express. So there's a whole host of activities that, we support our commercial customers around the world with. And so my team helps make that happen. So everything from the digital and data, so the digital interface that you use when you go online to engage with us mobilely, as well as web, to the data solutions that we use to enhance and enable for both our customers and our sales force. Our sales readiness team sits in my organization. So
it sounds like, let me just, yeah. So it's a lot, Susan. It sounds like you run basically a company within a company. How many employees? How many employees report to you out of how many?
Right now we're about 1,600 plus in the organization around the globe. So we literally are in every location that American Express operates in.
Wow. And how many? So that's 16 out of how many American Express employees?
So Amex has 60,000 employees.
Okay.
The majority of our employees, just to give you some context, are in our service organization, right? And so we call it our global services group. And that team is the team that when you pick up the phone and you call and you've got a question about your bill, or you're having some financial hardship, or you want to apply for a card online, that team is the majority of the employees of our company. And so they sit in a separate group, and they actually service the entire company relative versus, us being in the commercial business and being specifically focused on the commercial business.
Got it. So how did Susan Chapman, as you say, from LA, from the original LA, right? Tell us what that stands for.
LA.
What does that?
So
is
for all of you who think you know what LA is actually Lower Alabama. That's where my parents are from. My mom and dad were one of multiple kids. My mom, one of 11. My dad, one of 10. Both born in rural Alabama, Lower Alabama, in Marengo County. It's interesting. They actually were both born in the county, but did not know each other until they were older. But essentially, my parents were born like on farms, right? Their parents were croppers. My mother's father also went to the Army and served in the Army. He fought in World War I. He was a veteran. He came back. He was actually one of the first African-American landowners in the county. So we actually still have that land in our family today. And I say that because it's really important because, when I think about the foundation that was laid for me and the expectations in terms of the opportunity to keep growing opportunities for not just me, but for our family members and for others. It started with the legacy of my grandparents. My father's father was a sharecropper, and so both of my parents were actually, as I said, like a lot of, families that lived on farms. They had aspirations to want to do other things, but, their parents didn't, right? They had elementary school educations, but they had a desire. And so my mother actually went to Birmingham and got an LPN nursing degree, which is a 2-year nursing degree.
Right.
And she was the only one in her family to do that. She actually moved here to New York because she had an aunt that had left Alabama. Like many African Americans, they left the South, came north for opportunities and for jobs, and she moved here to New York for a short period of time with a desire to be a nurse, but she couldn't be a nurse because no one would hire her as a nurse, so they wouldn't hire Black nurses then. She could only get a job as a nanny or a house cleaner. And so she left New York and went to Ohio, where she had other siblings, where she was able to get a job as a nurse. My dad actually started college at Miles College, but had to drop out because he couldn't afford it. And so he ended up moving to Ohio as well. And so that's where my parents came together. And so both of my parents actually ended up going to college after we were born.
Yeah, so I wanted to get in. I know you shared that with me the other day in terms of you're the youngest, right? And the youngest, usually you're the
I'm the youngest of four.
The boss of the family, the Spitfire.
My nickname is TL for team leader.
Team leader. Right. Yes, the youngest usually raises a lot of, Brother Gregory's on the line, so I won't say a bad word. But so with that said, in terms of, we have a number of our students all over the country are facing so many challenges, in particular in the times we're in, right? Whether you come from means or not. However, a number of our students, are first generation college students. But I know for you actually, your mother was in college the same time you were, and you faced all these challenges, being parents who didn't go to college until after you were born. And some of our students have the same challenges in terms of lower income and being of a certain ethnic background. How did Susan Chapman from Lower Alabama, living on a farm, come to running a company of 1,600 employees? I know it's a testament to parents as well.
Yeah, so so my parents were the LA crew, right? We were born and raised in Ohio, in Cincinnati. I think there are a couple of things. One, my mother and father always had dreams and aspirations that they were willing to take risks to go after. And so, like I said, my dad had started college, had to drop out, but always had a desire to want to finish college. My mother, when she came to Cincinnati, was working as a nurse, as an LPN, recognized that in order for her to keep growing and developing, she needed to go get an RN, because at the time that was like the standard. So I remember being 5 years old, going to class with my mom, right? So she took me and my brother. There's two sets of us. My older brother and sister are 10 and 9 years older than I am, and then me and my brother are 18 months apart. And so both me and my brother would get out of preschool, and my mom would take us to class with her. So we'd be sitting there while she's studying. I think that's really important because, having parents who couldn't necessarily afford to do certain things, but certainly could model the behavior and have expectation for us makes a big difference. So, I say that because I have mentored several young people over the years. And one of the things that I have discovered is that many of them have all the talent in the world, have all the capabilities in the world, but nobody ever had expectation for them until I met them, or until, the program that they got and worked on. And so I think it's really important to always have expectation. And instead of asking yourself, why me, always ask yourself, why not me? So my mother's, her belief was always like, the sky is the limit. It might be challenging to get there, but if you want it bad enough, and if you do the hard work, you can achieve it. And so for me, when I was growing up, that was always about trying to academically be strong. I think the other thing that my mother in particular instilled in us was a sense of service, right? Because I think that, she would say, if you take care of the giving, the receiving will take care of itself. And so having of yourself and being selfless makes a big difference. And as I look through my career, through pivotal moments, it's because of that service. I didn't go and find something out of it, but those were the things that either helped develop me or open doors for me. And so, you know, I remember being in high school and my mother being like, hey, you know, I had a desire, you know, my mom was the mom who like bought all the encyclopedias. Like, I know you young people don't know what that is because you don't have the internet. However,
Right.
you know,
She
had the
took you guys
encyclopedia.
to the library every week as well.
That's right. And we all had library cards and had to go to the library, right? And so, you know, we didn't get to be snobbish and buy books off Amazon. That's not how we got down. We had to go to the library. We had to check out library books. And my mom made sure that we did that every week because she knew that the way that we could get exposure to the world was through books and through learning, because we didn't have all these other tools that young people have today, right? We didn't have cell phones, none of that stuff. So I remember being in the, because we also had a love of music, and so all of us are musicians. And so she, you know, made sure that we took lessons, got that exposure. And I remember.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, I was going to say the first opportunity I had to go internationally was when I was in the 9th grade, and the band was taking a trip to Mexico, to Merida, Mexico, and my mom was like, we can't afford to send you there, but we will go sell fruit and whatever else we have to give you this opportunity, because she knew how important it was for us to do that. And so that opened up a whole nother set of opportunities for us in our lives.
And can you just expand on that for our students in terms of, you mentioned your love of the arts. We know, and many of our students may not know, surrounding yourself in the arts makes you a more creative person. You know, Steve Jobs, head of Apple, founder of Apple, said, you know, he hired the best engineers who are also the best artists as well. What does surrounding yourself with the arts and making sure you travel and expose yourself to different cultures and travel internationally, how has that helped you as a person that your parents instilled in you and in your career?
Yeah, I mean, you can't really be empathetic, and you really can't learn about others if you don't expose yourself to other things. And, you know, as I look around the environment that's happening today and some of the challenges that we're seeing, the small-mindedness, the insecurity of a lot of people, a lot of that's driven because they have absolutely no idea, as they spew hate and say nasty things about people, what real people are all alike and what those communities are like. You know, I remember I had the opportunity to live in Hong Kong for a year. And, you know, there's always these like these sayings about ugly Americans, right? Because, you know, typically we've gone to other countries and acted as if everyone else should do things on our terms. But, you know, I've always felt like, you know, you go to other places, you have a unique opportunity to build relationships and learn about people in different ways, but you have to be open to their culture and you have to learn about them. And so I think that particularly now that we live in a global society, despite the fact that, you know, some politicians would like to let you know, they would like you to believe that nationalism is the answer, that genie is out the bottle, right? Think about how fast the COVID virus went around the globe. That is because of the global nature of commerce and the global nature of how people interact with each other. And, you know, COVID is one bad thing, but one really great thing is it just gives you an opportunity to really learn about other people. You learn lessons. There are things culturally, you know, I'll take another example. A lot of people believe that Western medicine is the answer for everything, but at the end of the day, Eastern cultures have been practicing medicine for a long time in very different ways that are very effective, that don't require chemicals, right? Man-made chemicals. And so I think, like, you don't learn about those things unless you actually expose yourself to those things. But, you know, for young people, as you are preparing yourselves to be leaders in the world and leaders in, you know, in the globe, you cannot be a leader if you do not understand and know how other people interact and engage culturally. With all that being said, though, the one thing I have learned is that people, no matter where you are in the world, want some of the same basic things, right? They want to be happy. They want their kids to be happy. They want their kids to have opportunities. They want to have opportunities, and they want to live a good life. And that takes different forms in different places. But, you know, if you lead with that, and if you lead with empathy, and if you lead with understanding, and most importantly, listening first before acting, I guarantee you, you will be very happy, and you will have lots of opportunities, and all of those like big jobs and big titles and big things that you really want in life will come for you, but you will be a much more effective leader. And I do mean leader, not manager, right? Because there's a lot of managers out there, a lot of people out there trying to floss and like be all big shots and, you know, be whatever. But being a true leader means that you lead with empathy and that you care, right? And I cannot emphasize that enough.
Yeah, no, I want to.
Right now,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I want to just jump in there real quick, because definitely leading with empathy. Some people and some of our students may believe that, you know, nice guys finish last. And what I hear you saying is that empathy, having a good heart, and putting others' needs before your own, as well as taking care of yourself, though, makes you a better leader, and you will succeed regardless. I want to jump to your college years, and so if you can give some of our students some advice there. I know you faced some challenges. Vanderbilt is a wonderful university in Tennessee, but when you went there a few decades ago, a couple decades ago, it was not as diverse. I mean, it's not that diverse now, but it definitely wasn't diverse. So let's talk about some of the challenges you faced there, as well as how did you go from majoring in engineering to then getting a master's, MBA in real estate. Many people, including myself at one time, thought real estate was only buying and selling houses next door. So the challenges you faced at Vanderbilt that made you who you are today, and how'd you get into real estate?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think, you know, when I think back upon inflection points in my life and experiences that really changed me and helped shape me, Vanderbilt is one of those experiences. So just to give you some context, you know, it was more than 2 decades ago, but all right, I'm gonna go with you on that. I went to Vanderbilt because I graduated from Walnut Hills High School in Cincinnati, Ohio, which was one of the best high schools in the country, public high school, very diverse, very mixed. And so a couple things happened. One, and this is just more broadly, I remember, you know, if you watch Michelle Obama's Becoming thing, her video, she talked about how her college guidance counselor told her that she would never be able to go to Princeton.
Yeah.
My guidance counselor said the same thing to me.
Mine said something similar too.
Right. Same, right? And I say that because like y'all are all gonna meet people in your life who are gonna always try to underestimate your potential. Don't forget that. Number one. So but I was like, fine, I'm gonna apply anyway. I applied to Princeton, Stanford, Vanderbilt, and a couple other schools. Got into all of them. I wanted to go to Stanford. My mother was like, there's no way I'm letting my baby go to California. So she was like, take that off your list and pick something else. I went to visit Princeton, and it was like not a fit culturally for me. And I went to Vanderbilt at a time where they had started having something called Black Student Weekend. And so it was actually as a result of protests by the seniors who said that Vanderbilt did not have diversity the way they needed to, and they needed to support their Black students in particular more strongly. Does that sound familiar? Okay, hold that thought. So we went to Black Student Weekend, and it was like a party weekend. It was on and popping. It was all good. We were all like, we coming to Vanderbilt. So we all went to Vandy, like literally all of us. And we got there, and it was a slap all the way in the face, right? It was the first time I actively was called the N-word, right? On my first day of moving into, we lived in this quadrangle of singles, right? Moved in, there were 2 Black girls on my hallway. So you came up the steps, my room was the first room. There was a room between us, and then LaTanya Moses from Atlanta, Georgia was the other girl on the floor. And the girl who was in the room, the white girl who was in the room between the 2 of us, her mother learned that she was going to be living between 2 Black students and had her moved the same day. Now, get that, right? Now imagine how you feel about that. There were a series of experiences that happened at Vanderbilt. I majored in engineering. You know, you go in these big lecture halls. I always used to joke with my friends because they'd be like, with my white friends, they'd be like, yeah, you know, we're going to skip class today. I'm like, yo, I cannot skip class because if I skip class, they will absolutely know I'm not there. Right. So there were like 4 Black students in this one class, right? And we're in the classroom, like literally the second week of school, and the professor literally looks at us and says, I don't even know why y'all are here. Y'all don't pass my class. Now think about that. Now, you know, this is where having strong Black mamas make all the difference in the world, right? So I went home and called my mother. I said, Ma, you can never believe what this man said to us today. She said, okay. She was my mom was like a quiet storm, like, and I do mean storm. Like people would always be like, yo, is your mom home? Because they didn't want to mess with her, right? But she was real quiet, real sweet, you know. So my mom, the next morning, my mom drove to Nashville from Ohio, right? Came to my dorm and was like, let's go see him. So we went to the dean's office, and my mother told the woman at the front desk, she's like, listen, I want to talk to the dean, and I want to talk to this professor about what happened in the classroom yesterday. And of course, they were like, stalling, whatever. And she was like, I literally will sit here all day long. So finally they came, and my mother looked the man in the face and said, listen, if my daughter doesn't pass your class because she doesn't do the work, that's one thing. If she doesn't pass your class because of you, then you're going to have to deal with me. Now, needless to say, I passed the class.
Right.
But my mom also said to me, make sure you understand that if you don't fight for yourself, you cannot expect anybody else to, right? And I've always taken that with me because, especially in the environment that we live in right now, you know, I think it's been like the great awakening over the last couple of days of like, you know, well-meaning white people and others, but like, oh my God, I had no idea it was that bad.
Yeah.
You know, people telling us all the time that, you know, the only reason we were at Vanderbilt is because we were on scholarship and, you know, they lowered the standards to let us in. I mean, just all kinds of craziness that we learned. But the one thing about the Vanderbilt experience, there's 2 things about the Vanderbilt experience that I don't regret. One is, it taught me that if I could overcome what happened at Vanderbilt, I can do anything. And literally every time I've had a challenge in my life, especially career-wise, I'm like, if I made it through that, this is easy, right? Because I didn't have the same tools and equipment. And the second thing that came out of that is some of the closest and best relationships I have are with my Vandy fam crew, right? We were a group of fearless, take no prisoners, go after it. And to this day, we help each other. And like my friends from Vanderbilt, my Vandy fam are doing unbelievable things. Like, you know, my girlfriend Kim started Black Girls Code. Charles is the CEO of Macro. Tanya Mitchell-Graham, you know, attorney in Atlanta, but like one of the biggest, you know, entertainment attorneys. Like literally the list goes on. My friend Ken actually became a rear admiral in the Navy, one of like 12 Black guys in the Navy, right?
Well, we hope you bring some of your friends to St. Francis to pour into our city like you are, because they sound like they're doing. Your husband is trying to give me the Sandman Shuffle from the Apollo.
Oh, wow.
But before we get to the takeaways that you gave for students, I just want you to share, because you and I talked about this a little bit when we met the first time, because some of us may not have parents or people who can pour into us. How important and how should students go about getting a mentor, and share with us what's the difference between a mentor and a sponsor? You know, I consider my mentors, my biggest mentor is a Latino man, and I had never thought that he would pour into me more so than a lot of people who look like me, and he's done more for me, you know, than anyone else. So if you could just share that, because we have them from different, they can be a man, they can be white, they can be, if you can
absolutely. Absolutely. So 2 things. One, if you think that you can make it by yourself, you are kidding yourself. And if you are lucky enough to make it by yourself, then you took the hard route, because all of us need help. And if there's one thing that I would just try to impress upon you as young people, is that learning how to recognize the help that you need, and equipping yourself to go get it is really a critical, crucial tool, right? I will tell you a funny story, right? Because I've always been a person, and he might actually like get mad at me for doing this, but I'm doing it anyway. I've always been a believer that if there's something I don't know how to do well, then I will go get help for it, right? After my mother passed away, because, you know, for years and years, it was always like me and my mom, ride or die. Like, it's all good. It's going to be me and my mom till it all goes down. And the one person, I contemplated everybody else dying and being gone, except for my mother. And, like, everybody else is still here, and she's the one who died. And so when she passed away, I realized that, you know, I really didn't want to live by myself and be by myself for the rest of my life. But I also realized that, like, I sucked at dating, right? So I hired a coach, right? And then I ended up with Tris and Parker. So I just say that, like, you know, there isn't any aspect of your life that if you need help, you need to go find it. And especially when you're trying to navigate career-wise, because, you know, for those of you all who are first generation, like for me, even though, you know, my parents went to college, like they didn't work in corporate jobs. They had no idea how to tell me how to navigate in corporate. And so for me, figuring out how to have people in my circle who could help me, right, who could help me navigate, who could help me, give me a safe space to go ask questions and to think about what's going on, really, really important. And so that brings you to the conversation around mentors versus sponsors, right? Mentors are people who help you, right? They give you advice, they coach you, they support you. You know, they can come in a lot of different forms, right? But sponsors are the people who actually like make it happen, right? They have political currency, they have other currency that they can use, that they have on your behalf to make, either give you a job, help you, you know, get an opportunity, help you meet people, open doors for you. And so you need both in your life. You can have some people who are sponsors and mentors, but mentors, if someone's a mentor to you, it doesn't necessarily mean that they can also be a sponsor for you. Sometimes you have sponsors and you don't even know they're sponsoring you, right? So that's why it's important to always strive for excellence, right? Always lean into yourself and what your skill set is and the thing that makes you uniquely you. Because this is the other thing that I see young people always struggling with is the Me Too-ism of trying to be like everybody else. Like, well, yeah, well, this so-and-so is doing that. Well, me too. You don't have to do that. You are enough. All you have to do is figure out what is the God-given talent and skill that you have been given and lean all the way into that. And I guarantee you, at some point in time, at a critical point in your life, when you really need those skills, if you work on them and you develop them, they will pay off for you.
Yeah.
In terms of getting mentors, right? I think that they come in a lot of different ways. The best advice I can give you around getting a mentor is just think of it in any other relationship that you have, right? Think about like what makes that relationship really good. So the worst mentoring relationships that you could ever engage in are ones where you feel like you are less than the person you are being mentored by. They must be joint relationships, right? Think about it, right? If it's a one-way street, who wants to sit around for that? Like, I don't, right? I love having mentees who mentor me, right? And mentors are not always people who are more senior than you. Sometimes it's the people you need to mentor you are more junior than you, right? Some of the admins at our company are mentors for me, and they certainly are the ones who are always looking around the corner to make sure they can let me know what's going on so I can navigate, right? So, like, I would say, like, build relationships with people. Show up. You always have to start with excellence. So, like, nobody wants to mentor somebody who's not handling their business, right? So if you're not handling your business, you just need to go back and regroup and get yourself together and then come back, because people want to mentor people who are trying to do something. They also want to mentor people who aren't selfish, right? So you, as much as you can be mentored, you can be a mentor. And for me, that is the baseline for sponsorship. If I think that you're not doing, if I think that you're doing it only for yourself, I will not sponsor you, right? We have to be the gifts that keep on giving well beyond ourselves. And if you think about life like that, then you will attract all kinds of people who want to help you. But this whole concept of recognizing when you need help and being able to actually go ask for it and find it is really crucial, because it's hard to get somebody to mentor you if you don't know, you know, if you're not clear about what you're asking them to help you with. Because, you know, the other thing that I see a lot of, just one other thing, the other thing I see a lot of is like people asking their mentors to like solve it for them. And that's not their job. It's your job to figure out what choices are the ones that work for you, not work for your mom, not work for your daddy, them, your cousin, them, or whoever, the ones that work for you. And that's soul searching, and that's work that you have to do.
That's so helpful. Yeah,
and
that's so helpful. Yeah, no, so we want to pull up the takeaways that you mentioned. That was so helpful. I just listened to, I think it was TD Jake said, the power you're given is not meant for you, it's meant to empower other people. So that's basically what I got out, what you just said. But just go through this really quick. We can send this to all the registrants. What are your takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, you know, this time brings us a very different level of engagement. And so I think that this is just a few things that I jotted down that I think are really good tips for people and young people particularly trying to navigate right now. So make a plan and work it, right? And so the world hasn't stopped just because you're working from home or because you're at home and school is being, you know, the world actually in many cases is accelerating in places. And if you're not careful, you will be missed. So make your plan. And I do mean your plan, not everybody else's plan, but your plan, and work it. The second is leverage online resources to network and build your network and your relationships. So I know, you know, Chris is on y'all about your LinkedIn profiles. So if you're not taking advantage of the Career Center and like getting help with your resume and making sure that your profile is nice and tight, then shame on you. The resource is there for you. You need to take advantage of that. There's also all kinds of events and other things that you can use to help yourself grow and develop. So take advantage of that. Lean on your community, right? I mean, the one thing that I think a lot of people, and I see this from my team members, that they are expressing is they feel a sense of isolation and aloneness, but you're not alone, and you have a community of people that are out there. And so make time to build those, and you can also socially distance outside with them too, to the extent that you can. So, and make, you know, part of this is also make some time for some fun, because like, who wants to be around a fuddy-duddy the whole time, right? Do something exciting. And then last, but most importantly, like, you cannot be good to anybody else or even good to yourself if you don't take care of yourself. So make some time for self-care. I know it's really hard now, but it's really important. You know, Chris and I joked earlier about how, you know, we eating well, but we've been making time to exercise often, and you know, spend good quality time, get outside, wear your mask, wear your gloves, be socially distanced, but still make time for self-care. It's really, really important. Figure out, you know, I'll leave you with this and then I'll take some questions, which is one of the things that happened when my mother passed away that was really hard for me is I really had a hard time navigating. And so one of the things that I actually made was a joy list, things that I just really enjoy doing. I went and I update it from time to time, but I would just encourage you to get your own joy list. And when you look at how you spend your time, so do an analysis of your calendar. Ask yourself, how much time are you actually spending on the things that bring you joy? Because those are the things that actually will feed your soul. Those are the things that will actually help you navigate when things really suck and are really hard. And those are the things that will actually like give you a sense of purpose and engagement, even if you are managing through a rough time. I would be remiss if I didn't address what's going on right now, especially for the Black students, right? This is hard, right? But know that, you know, to the point that President Miguel said, there are people who came before you who are paving a path for you. And the one thing that I am incredibly encouraged by is that the young people are the ones who are making this change, right? The young people are the ones who are driving this change. And don't forget that, you know what? there are a lot of people who paved the way for you to make that happen. And there are a lot of people who are rooting for your success. We're rooting for your success. We want to see you all be successful. And so, you know, when you're out there protesting on the front lines, know that we making donations to make sure that y'all still have money to do that when you go, okay?
Yes. Thank you
and
so
that,
much.
You know, we're praying for you and supporting you.
Thank you so much
Anyway.
for pouring into our students, Susan. This brings me joy speaking to our students. And I know President Miguel, he always takes notes when we have speakers. So, you know, and we have some staff on the call as well who this can benefit as well. So I'll hand it over to Chris. But once again, I look forward to seeing you sooner than later, Susan, and thank you for your time.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much, Monique.
Thank you, Monique, for your wonderful job. Thank you, Susan. She's right upstairs, so I'm hearing the echo, so it's kind of weirding me out, but it's all good. We had some wonderful questions, and just for time's sake, I was going to actually have those individuals ask the questions, but because they took the bull by the horn and asked the question, I do want to acknowledge them. So I'm going to ask the question, but I still want to acknowledge them. Larry Williams, raise your hand.
Hey, Larry.
Class of 2022. So he has a couple questions for you, and I'm going to say them right now. Thank you for asking the questions, Larry. This one is about almost a commercial for Amex. Can you tell me what a startup company needs to have to receive a business card?
I'm confused. I don't really understand your question. Can you tell me what a startup company needs to have to receive a business card? What, like, Larry, go off mute and tell me what you're trying to say. You're still on mute.
Here we go.
Yeah, what I was trying to ask is, I know there's a lot of pitfalls as far as trying to get a startup and then actually getting a credit card from American Express.
Oh, a business card. Okay, I got it. So, you know, yeah, I mean, typically what happens for startups in terms of, and, you know, you can go on our website if you're looking, and they will tell you what the qualifications are for each one of the card products that we have. And, you know, obviously we're in business to help empower and support small businesses. But, you know, beyond American Express, there's a ton of tools out there to help small businesses grow and develop. And especially right now, because, you know, small business is the heart of you know, business growth in this country in particular. So there's a lot of options. I would just say go out there, do some research, go to the SBA website, check out what they've got, look to see what the PPP program is, and how, you know, small businesses can take advantage of it. There's still billions of dollars available for PPP, despite what, you know, you've seen in the news. So absolutely take advantage of that. I knew, so your part two of your question is, can I speak to the adversities and hardships as I faced in the Trailblazer? I mean, I talked about Vanderbilt as one of them. We could go on and on. There's probably been, like, you know, a couple of hardships. I saw another question here that was tied into, like, financial management. And, like, you know, my parents didn't know anything about managing money when I was growing up. Trust me on that one, right? There was a paycheck to paycheck, sometimes craziness associated with it, because they weren't taught fiscal management when they were growing. But if there's one thing I would also impress upon you all, is to learn how money works, how it transitions, how it goes, understand financially how things are managed, right? So I know it's not the most favorite class in the world, but take an accounting class and take a finance 101 class, right? Because accounting actually drives how money moves and is managed, period, right? And whether they're GAAP accounting standards or they're general accounting and general accepted accounting principles, there you go, Monique, I'm on it for you, right? Or whether they are international standards, right? I would just tell you that is what governs how money moves and managed. So take an accounting class and take a finance class, because a finance class will teach you the various tools that you can use and know about to manage and to grow money, right? One of the interesting things that I find in the current environment that we're in is that the stock market is still going crazy, right? But most people don't own stock, right? Most people financially have not been given the opportunity to participate in the public market. And so I would impress upon you to take a finance class, take an accounting class, so you can learn about how those things work, because it will absolutely make a big difference for you. And most importantly, finally, get on a budget, right? Figure out how to actually manage money, because at the end of the day, no one will do it for you. Luckily, even though my mother didn't know a crazy amount about it, she understood the value and how to manage credit, and she taught me about that, right? And so there's so many things that so many of us didn't learn from our parents, but the information is out there and it's available to you, and you need to take advantage of it. The other thing that, and the last thing I'll say about money is that for many of you, and I've seen this for a lot of the kids that I mentor, and even for, you know, me and Chris and a lot of our friends, you know, some of your family members might decide that they want to think of you as the bank, right? You'll end up making more money in your first or second job than your parents ever made before. And it's really important that you figure out what boundaries you're willing to have now, right? Because you cannot help other people if you are not positioned to help yourself. And one of the most valuable words that you will learn, both for fiscal financial management and just in managing your life, is no. So practice it now, okay? Because you're going to have to learn how to say no. And, you know, there are going to be some people who are going to get mad at you, who are not going to like you, who won't be happy, but you will be okay. So learn how to figure out what the boundaries are now so that you can position yourself to be able to help more, right? You can't, and then finally, like, don't waste your money on stuff that doesn't accrue in value, right? Just don't do it. You don't need all the flashy stuff. I don't need to tell you, like, especially for some of the sisters, you know, the amount of money you spend on your hair versus investing in stocks. Trust me, you could, like, you could have a whole lot more money to have as many hair changes as you like if you invest. So trust me on that one. And so really be thoughtful about what you decide you want to invest in your money in versus spending on, because it will make a big difference in your life.
Okay, actually, you know what? You just did an amazing thing. You probably answered the next question, but I still want to acknowledge the young lady who asked the question that I think you just answered right there. Amanda, who's class of 2022 and will probably be on CNN one day, literally. And she asked a similar question. Did I ask you your question? Did she answer your question pretty much? Okay, good. Okay, good. Thank you.
All right, there you go.
So next question, Issa, is Issa there?
Issa, where you at? Issa, come on down.
You might. Some people stepped off. Oh, there he goes.
Oh, Issa. There you
and
go.
This guy,
Issa, hey.
intern for Congressman Jeffries.
Oh, awesome.
So he's a rising junior. He says he thinks it's very admirable, resourceful for you to use empathy as a leader in corporate world. He wanted to ask you, how do you navigate the use of empathy in corporate America, a notoriously competitive environment?
That's a really great question. And so this is where having your own goals in place and being clear about why you come there every day is really important, right? And what your values are, and not being willing to compromise those. You are going to find yourself faced in many opportunities in your life with chances where people are going to ask you to compromise your morals and your values for $2.50 or for a raise or for a so-called job. And the thing that I would tell you is, don't ever do it, right? Don't ever do it, because the moment you do it once, it means that you'll do it again. And it's really, really important for you to set goals for yourself. Be really clear about what works for you. And if the organization's morals and values do not align with yours, leave. Do not stay. You don't have to. And the way you can leave is to create optionality for yourself. This is where building relationships is so important, right? Because it's hard to ask somebody for help when you need it if you haven't put in the work. And there's nothing worse than somebody calling me asking for help and I haven't heard from them in like 10 years. And all of a sudden they're like, oops, Susan, I need some help. Can I holler at you, right? Remember, relationships enable opportunities for you. And so if you are constantly understanding what your value and your worth is in the marketplace, and if you always are really clear about what you are gaining by the time that you're spending there, it will make it very easy for you to be an empathetic leader. Because if the organization can't support you and give you what you deserve, right? Not what you want, but what you deserve, then it's a signal to you that it's time for you to leave. And I wish that we had more leaders that were empathetic leaders. And I think what you're finding right now in the current environment is that, you know, those leaders who decided that, you know, empathy was like a nice to have thing, they are really struggling with how to help their teams navigate through this environment, whether it's COVID, whether it's the racial strife and the challenges that are happening. And so those who have led with empathy and earned the followership that they have actually are able to lead much easier through this environment because their teams are rising to the occasion, right? And there will be another time where we will have strife and challenge. This is not going to be the last time in your lives. It's probably the first time that you've really experienced this. But like, there's two things that I would tell you, and it's probably like the last comment I would make you is like, you know, as you go through life, you're going to have real hard times and you're going to have some really great times. And you have two choices. You can go through kicking and screaming, woe is me, oh, it's so terrible, I don't even understand why this is happening to me, this is so awful, or whatever. Or you can say, what is the lesson that I am learning that is helping me grow as a leader? Because I know that this challenge and these issues that I'm facing right now are just preparing me for a bigger plate. And if you take on that challenge, all those goals, and all those aspirations and all those things that you say you want will absolutely, it will fill you, and it will create the strength and the resilience that you need to be able to navigate and manage through it. And finally, don't ever let somebody tell you you can't do something, right? The reason why I'm able to sit in the seat that I sit in today is because I've had a lot of people tell me that I would never, you won't ever, you can't, not, why would they pick you? I mean, I had a professor when I was in engineering school at Vanderbilt who told me literally that I wasn't going to amount to anything and that I would never do well. So every time I have an accolade, I get promoted or something really good happens to me, I email it to him and say, ooh, or I mail it to him and say, ooh, I just want you to know I'm still achieving. Isn't that terrible? Right? I know I'm a little petty too, but there it is. So thank you all so much for taking the time today. I really have enjoyed spending time with you. I hope that this has been helpful for you. And I'm looking forward to seeing every single last one of you all become amazing in your own right and do your thing. You got this.
And apologies for, we had a couple questions that were not able to ask. Thank you so much, Susan, for speaking today and sharing your infinite knowledge and wisdom with our students. Monique, thank you so, so much for serving as a wonderful moderator for this. We will be coming forth with some more really exciting career spotlights in the coming weeks, so look out for them. Thank you also, President Miguel, for speaking, and also thank you for our students and staff members and a lot of incoming freshmen to St. Francis coming in.
Oh,
welcome.
right.
Also wanted to give a shout out to family members, my dad and my cousin were here too. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to hand it over for closing remarks by our illustrious director, Naomi KINLEY.
Thank you so much, Susan. I cannot thank you enough for your inspiring story, your very impressive career journey, your empathy, and your Franciscan heart. We just adore you. And please keep our students and alumni in mind for entry-level positions, internships, possibly seasoned positions. And I'm hoping to see you in person at 180 Remsen sometime soon. And stay tuned for our next career spotlight. We'll have details coming soon. Does anyone else have any final remarks? Brother Greg?
I do. I think we're good. Thank you so much.
It was absolute, Susan, as I wrote in the chat, you are an incredible Franciscan. Thank you so much for gracing us today at St. Francis College.
Thank you, Brother Greg. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you for your support. Thank you all my colleagues for promoting and supporting this event.